And hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and today I'm doing something a little bit different. You might have been able to tell from the title and possibly the screenshot. I'm going to be doing something space related today, but it's actually not an LDD time-lapse at all. I'm showcasing one of the 3 LEGO builds that I've done for my fanfiction crossover project, which is a crossover between XCOM, XCOM 2 and Mass Effect. So let's see if I've actually managed to get everything set up properly with a transition! Whee! Oh, look at that, isn't it pretty? And you can see over there, there's a spaceship that doesn't actually look like anything in Mass Effect at all. And you can also see just above my head, right up there, there is the logo that I created for the project, which is a crossover between the XCOM Vigilo Confido emblem and the Systems Alliance logo, because in universe, the Systems Alliance doesn't actually exist. The government as it stands is a kind of a 4-piece split between the 3 factions within the human species. Well, you have the Reapers, the Skirmishers, and the Templar. The Skirmishers are technically from Advent and therefore a human subspecies, and the Templars, psionic powers isn't something, well, they're not something you develop naturally, so they are something very much different again, another human subspecies. But this over here is what would be called the Pan-Human Union's Predominance class frigate, which was one of the ones that in my writing featured during the Battle of Shanxi. Now, in comparison to most frigates in universe, this thing is actually bloody long, because it takes about 1, 2, 3. Oh, fuck it up, why not, Craig? 4, 5, 6, 7 of those to actually span the length, and the length that I'm working with is one stud is 10 meters. So we're talking almost 700 meters worth of ship. And considering that in universe, the original canon for Mass Effect, most frigates level out at about the kind of 1 to 200 meter mark, and then cruisers get about the size we're working at here, and then dreadnoughts are about 1 kilometer long. We're dealing with a pretty hefty vessel here. Now obviously you can kind of see some of the details off the bat. These are the main mag tier or laser tier, depending on ship loadout, point defense guns, and depending entirely on what type they are, mag weapons or laser weapons, they can be used for either point defense or as a secondary assault weapon. What you have running down the centre here is a vastly upscaled version of the mag cannon from XCOM 2, because it always struck me as if you were going to use any weapon to upscale and use for something suitable for a starship, which is why I have these details over here to keep it kind of reminiscent of traditional mag weaponry and how they look in XCOM 2. The mag cannon is what you're going to be scaling up. As for other details, what you have here, obviously, they are the missile launchers, and it carries 8, 16, 24 of these bad boys, with enough for 3 reloads, and those missiles will literally just fire out in the direction they're pointing, and then if you follow my mouse across, go flying off over the horizon to kill whatever killy thing they need to kill this time round. Following some of the other conventions that I've thrown clean out the window, what you have here is our bridge with our various conning decks, antenna, radomes, all the various kinds of sensors that you're going to need for things in space. You've got a couple more various sensors and antenna across the top here, and what you have is these golden apparatus which are kind of dotted around the ship in different ways, shapes or forms, and those are basically external greebles for the various types of shielding that the ships have, because I'm sticking with the canon for the Mass Effect timeline in that various ships and armors have inbuilt Mass Effect based kinetic barriers which will stop most mass accelerator rounds, some torpedoes, but when it comes to energy weapons which are a lot more prolific, they're not exactly going to cut the mustard, especially not against full-size starship lasers and full-size starship plasma weapons. So most PHU ships, Pan-Human Union ships, have both kinetic barriers and shielding based off of the shield bearers from XCOM 2, but it's not a permanent fixture. They activate, they take a certain amount of damage and negate it completely, but after that they have to shut down and recharge. So they're more of a backup system than a primary shield system, full stop. Underneath here we actually have, complete with greebles, a little carrier deck underneath, which most ships have, so that fighters can kind of fly through one side, out through the other. They can launch adapted Firestorms and Sky Rangers, which are now on their 5th or 6th generation by the time you reach the early 2200s. And this whole section can either be pressurized through an energy shield, which is supposed to, like, I couldn't necessarily visualize it properly with, you know, the issues of LDD, but an energy shield would cover both the back and the front space. Or if they're in space and they're not launching fighters immediately, just a large metal shutter would come across and block this completely and atmospherically seal it. I can't fucking talk this morning. If you've actually stuck through this with me, props to you. One of the little greebles I like to use over here are these kind of old style windows, which are forming kind of just a small heat vent, really. Across the back we'd have the spaces for kind of engineering, Illyrian power cores, the Mass Effect cores, and then these honking great big engines, which I really am quite proud of. Especially the way that I managed to fit this in with the other design element that I've ripped pretty much straight from the Mass Effect universe, which is kind of these sweeping wings across the front that match with the underside armour and keep everything kind of swept, defended, and keeps it based in the fact that these kind of curves are very reminiscent of Systems Alliance vessels in the Mass Effect universe. And as for the engines in the back here, although I couldn't properly visualize it the way I wanted it to, but the way that I'm going to be writing the fluff in the story is that basically these conical engines are a combination of what we know of today as EM drive and ethereal antimatter anti-gravity pods, which are those great big round engine sections you see a lot more of in XCOM Enemy Unknown and Enemy Within than you see in XCOM 2. But those round pods are supposed to be omnidirectional gravity drives. You pour energy into a direction in this drive and it propels you the other direction without any real method of thrust. It kind of just pulls you in that direction. The Mass Effect drive is supposed to do so while it's at full power. And inside this conical section, it's supposed to be a couple of hundred of these smaller pods, creating a conical gravity wave that is then projected outwards through here, which would be a very similar distortion to space, along the same lines as Advent transports in XCOM 2, that kind of heat wavering effect without any actual heat involved, which is stuff that I really like to see because it's very much sci-fi and for me very reminiscent of Ghosts of Onyx, with kind of technology so advanced that you can't see what's working within it, but you can see the effect that it has on the environment. And yeah, I love Ghosts of Onyx. It's kind of my favourite Halo book. But yeah, these were the design elements and everything that I tried to keep in mind for a ship that's built on a vastly, I'm not going to say superior, but different scale to vessels traditionally within the Mass Effect universe, while still following some of the rules of that universe. So I'm just going to flip across and we're going to reverse back a scene. Yay! I can do multicam control! I only wasted 3 years of university on that. But yeah, this little 10-minute thing has been like my descriptive, informative video on the PHU Predominance class frigate. And I will see you all in the next video where I will be covering the Prevalence class cruiser. So until then, ta-ra for now. And it doesn't want to stop recording.